Hi, welcome to This Week in Gender, where in 10 minutes or less, we talk about gender. My name's Carlos. I'm the manager of online programming and community development at Gender Spectrum.
And I'm Lisa Kenny, Executive Director at Gender Spectrum. All right, what's the
Here we
topic?
go.
I'm looking forward to hearing about your topic
Yeah,
today.
but first, I'd like to talk about all the feedback that we've gotten. Thank you so much, everyone, for reaching out
Thank
to
you.
us. We've received a lot of positive and constructive feedback. We'll definitely be incorporating that in the upcoming episodes of This Week in Gender, or as we're calling it, Twig.
Yeah, because we want to make sure we create an acronym out of every single thing, so that's good. That's good.
It's just fun to say.
It is fun, sure it is, exactly.
All right, so
Who doesn't want fun?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
All
so
right, your topic.
the Emmys were this past week, and Jeffrey Tambor gave an acceptance speech at the Emmys where he really kind of utilized the platform that he's been given. He's the leading actor in a show called Transparent. Essentially, what he said was that Hollywood needs to give trans actors a chance. And he said that if he was the last male cisgendered actor giving this speech, he would be okay with that. Flip side is that another actor by the name of Michelle Rodriguez, I think she starred in Fast and Furious, the whole Fast and Furious chain, I think, is in a kind of B-rated Hollywood film called Reassignment, and it's where a hitman is forced into sex change surgery.
That probably happens all the time.
All the time.
So it's like a documentary, really. It's based on a true story. That was unnecessary.
So essentially, there's a lot of controversy because Michelle Rodriguez has said, first of all, what controversy? There's no controversy. I'm bisexual. I am a member of this community. Therefore, I get a say in what is kind of happening. And I think trans people need to chill out because they don't own the patent on sex surgery, is I think exactly what she said.
Wow.
So there's a few things wrong with that.
A few things loaded up in there.
Right. And I think also, who was going to watch your movie in the first place?
I think that's maybe the controversy. What controversy? I didn't even know anyone knew about my film.
Yeah, no one's going to watch it.
So really this issue about who has a right to portray people's
Right.
narratives, right?
Yes,
This is
yeah.
true, certainly race. This is an important issue. I think it's interesting, this conflation of that as a bisexual person, so again, sexual orientation, sort of thinking, oh yeah, now I have a right to sort of weigh in
and
on
this
gender
always
topics.
comes up, always.
Right, it always comes up. It's really interesting. So that's an interesting example. And I think Transparent's interesting that Jeffrey Tambor is the lead, a cisgendered male.
Right.
But I think Jill Solway, who created the show and runs the show, has done a lot both on the writing side and hiring trans actors. So I think the issue isn't just only trans people can play trans roles or you have to be the gender identity of the role you play. But I think it also says, first of all, if we're portraying other people's narratives, we need to acknowledge if it's not our own narrative.
Yeah.
And what does that mean and some of the complexity. And also I think, and do something from a place of humbleness and also really try to understand. And I think what Jeffrey Tambor, and at least other things I've read, has done a lot to try to understand the trans experience and acknowledges it's not mine, I'm portraying it. There will always be a chasm in terms of what I'm portraying versus my own experience, but has really tried to understand that versus it sounds like what you're responding to about Michelle was that, somehow I've got this dialed in because I'm part of the community, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that she can't even see how blind she is to it and saying that people need to chill out. I mean, there's just a lot there. It's a lot, right? It's, again, like you said, sexual orientation and gender identity are two completely very different things. The fact that as a bisexual, cisgendered female, she feels that she has a voice in how kind of trans people can feel, but also what they can say, is silencing them in being a part of the conversation. I think they have every right to say I think you really should give trans folks a chance to kind of be a part of these films, but also being so dismissive about things is what really bothers me. It's just really saddening and kind of sickening at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, I get it.
So that's that.
So that's it. So are you,
Go for it. I'm done.
okay.
I'm done.
Although we could always loop back to that. So my story, or the thing I want to highlight on this week is something I came across. I think many of you probably came across it in one venue or another too, which was this story about a boy and his mother who go shopping at Justice, which is a clothing store. Yeah. So it's a really interesting story. I happened to see it on Scary Mommy, and I say that in part because I want to come back to it. And also Scary Mommy does some good stuff on parenting and some really good things around gender. So also shout out to Scary Mommy for the good work that they do too. But it's an interesting story where a mom who has a gender nonconforming child in terms of how they express their gender, her son wanted to go to Justice, had sort of been with his older sister when his sister used to shop there.
And Justice, just sorry to interrupt, but Justice formerly was limited to, correct?
Yeah, it was exactly. It was. I think that Limited created it, and maybe that was the initial name, but it's been Justice for a number of years.
Okay.
But they had a conversation, and he said, you know what, I want to buy clothes there. And his mom just wasn't really sure, like, how is that going to go over?
Right,
and HB2 had just been passed, and so there was some anxiety about what's going to really happen, and if somebody says something, what's going to happen to my child?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. I like this story on a number of fronts. First of all, that the mom sort of heard what her son was saying to her and created space for that. That the mom shared it in a group that she's a part of, and some of her friends and allies to her son went and then checked it out. Like they called the store manager and they talked to the store manager and said, hey, so what's going to happen if somebody comes in? What would you do if somebody says something to this kid? And so they checked it out first. And by all accounts, the store manager was awesome. So shout out to her as well. And said, no, it's going to be great. And then, they went into the store and they bought a bunch of clothes. And you can see in the mom's posting of this story, this kid that looks fantastically happy, which everybody loves to see a fantastically happy kid, right?
Yes,
so that was great. Now, there's a couple things about that story that that also stayed with me in addition to how lovely that was and heartwarming. One was that, just the reaction of the staff, but also the whole thing about justice for girls, right? So one of the issues about justice is when on the window outside it says justice for girls, which in looking at the clothes really isn't a surprise to anyone looking at the clothes that they have a vision of girls in mind, and that vision I think is maybe not as broad as we might think of all the girls and what they want to wear. It's very sparkly kind of thing and all that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And great for girls that are into that, and also for boys that are into that, right? And that's sort of the interesting thing for me about that particular topic was the staff at the store handled it beautifully. But what we have to sort of look at is the for girls part on the front of the store really necessary? Because what's really interesting is they show the picture and the mom says, yeah, we walked out with 2 big bags of clothes. And I'm like, if I'm an executive at Justice, one of the first things I want to look at is how many more kids might come in and buy 2 big bags full of clothes if I didn't put for girls on the outside of my store. Right. And put parents in a position where they have to wonder whether or not they can come in and do that. Yeah. So it's one of those ways in which corporations unnecessarily segment products and services to say, oh, hey, by the way, in case it's not obvious enough, this is who we're trying to sell to. And a lot of girls are never going to shop in Justice because it's not their kind of thing. And there are a lot of boys potentially that would, but won't because it says for girls on the outside. Mm-hmm. That last point I wanted to say about that story was, on Scary Mommy, one of the interesting things to me is it was in the LGBT/trending thing, but there's nothing LGB or T about this story. It's about a cisgendered boy who wants to wear clothes. That doesn't make him trans.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't make him non-binary. It's just clothes. It has to do with gender expression. And it's one of those ways in which, again, we're sort of putting it all in the same ball of wax. Right. And so, we all are doing the best we can, and that's not, anything against Scary Mommy or anybody else with those, but it's an important thing for us to all recognize that, what's really in the T umbrella and what's just kids, being kids.
Just people wanting to express themselves.
Exactly. So anyway, that's my topic.
Awesome.
See, I haven't left you that much, though, to get through 10 minutes to really respond to that. Anyway, sorry.
Great.
Great. Thanks so much.
Okay, so we want to keep it at 10 minutes or less. So we're probably over at this point, but we want to remind everyone that the transgender teen came out.
And thanks everyone. What a great week
yeah.
last week was, and thank you for your support. We won't spend more time on that, but thank
Right.
you. Really, it was great, and all the support has been really wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, join us next week where we talk about gender this week, but next week.
And hopefully even in fewer minutes than it took us this week.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.